So I'm going to quickly give a talk on the way we have been doing research in India. When we started out doing marine mammal research, there was very little information available. So really, there was no other way than to work with local people to start the process. And so that's all. That's what I'm trying to just show you in my presentation. When it comes to marine mammals, in India, we have almost 30 to 34, 5 species of marine mammals. These are just some photographs that I'm showing you here. Some rare ones is the one on the right top. It's a Fraser's dolphin that Mahi Mankeshwar found during her work in the Andaman Islands. It's the first ever report and the only report of Fraser's dolphins from our waters. And then, of course, you know the killer dolphin and resource dolphin and Irrawaddy dolphin and all that. But we have 4 to 5 species of baleen whales and the rest one dugong and the rest are cetaceans, so toothed dolphins, large ones, even sperm whales. And then elasmobranchs also, where we've used these participatory networks where you actually work with local communities to collect data. Because not for identification in this particular case, fishermen are not able to ID sharks really, but they are able to tell us where they went fishing, which is a very important part of managing shark fisheries. Um, what are the challenges of doing marine or marine mammal research in India? Is, as Sir said in his plenary today, there are huge gaps in the scientific data. Huge gaps. And we here are sitting with these SDG goals, and we don't really know how to deal with them because we don't have any background information, any information on stocks and population sizes. You know, then how do we talk about trends and protection? And then we have logistical, financial, and advisory limitations. Getting into marine research, I think 10 years before was not easy at all. You had to work on aquaculture or you had to work on commercially important species if you wanted to be a marine biologist. And now things are changing. Now there are a lot more of us who are welcoming students to do research of this nature. So these are the gaps, and so we start filling the gaps with local traditional ecological knowledge. That's the kind of participatory network and citizen science that I have been doing. You respect the local cultures, you understand their stories, you spend time. This is not about doing wildlife research, it is about spending time with local communities to include them in our journey. That inclusiveness brings about the voluntary participation in our projects. I can give you, yeah, so basically my definition of a participatory network or a citizen science project would be an inclusive positive feedback loop of citizens, informed and informing about the environment around them. Abhishek will explain to you his project. It's very similar, you know, where members from any walk of life can become part of the environment that's around them. It's voluntary, they are informed, they are connected to each other also. So there is more excitement when people share data with each other about what they've seen. And of course, everybody is credited. There may not be as yet funds in this as much as we wish, but everybody is credited and everybody is part of the picture. You know, it's not like publishing a scientific journal article that stays just with a small core group of elite people. It's a very different way of observing and being part of nature. So I think that is a big plus point about these things. I can give you a quick example of our marine mammals. Now that in the last 20 years, about all the little work that we've done in small areas, we know that we have a good network in Gujarat, in Maharashtra, Goa, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Pondicherry, Orissa. You know, there are local networks. We are hoping Kerala and Lakshadweep will be the next to follow. Goa, if you get a chance, check out Terra Conscious. Pooja Mitra there has done very good work. She, you know, the idea is she keeps in touch with the national network, but she handles the local state level network with the department and the volunteers. Um, so what kind of data or information does citizen science produce? We have presence absence of species. We have species ID if possible. We have temporal information. So if we are looking at something over time, the data collects and we can look at the change in the seasons and the times of the day that those species are present in their behavior, in their you know, location. It can be a sighting or a stranding of a marine mammal or a turtle or a whale shark, behaviors of these animals and group sizes. So over the years, it is an immense amount of information. Of course, these most volunteers are trained for all this data collection. Um, I'll give you a quick. The recent project I am involved in is looking for humpback whales along the west coast of India. Now, the west coast is so long, we have so many logistical issues of actually going out on a vessel, logistical, financial, to look for these very rare animals. There are less than 100 in the Arabian Sea. So I started from Gujarat and went all the way to Kanyakumari and interviewing people, talking to people, getting facilitators to explain the project to local fishermen and the Coast Guard. And all kinds of beautiful stories come out. So this is a whale temple in Gujarat, and their whales are called different things in different places along the west coast. Dev Masa, Machababu, Macharaja, it goes on. The baleen whales are treated like a blessing from God, right? So this is the way we build our networks when it comes to this kind of citizen science, not urban, but actual fisher folk. And I've done interviews and video surveys all along, and we actually could pinpoint hotspots along the west coast where humpback whales have been present in the past. As you can see on those circles that I've drawn along the map, is where we finally decided, okay, these are the areas we are going to put more resources into. Um, the Coast Guard gave us information of two sperm whale or of two humpback whales of Gujarat. The fishermen gave us information again of releasing a humpback whale from Gujarat. Again, Gujarat video. This was a live humpback whale. I will not show you. Maybe can. So all community in that particular slide, all religious communities. This is a live humpback whale. All religious communities were there. Women were there. Men were there. The women were had incense sticks on and garlands for the whale, and the men were all working together in Gujarat, Hindus, Muslims, Dalits, to bring this whale back into the sea. So even though we told them don't do it, it is very painful for the whale. This is what they are like at the ground level when it comes to baleen whales. Again, this is a citizen member from Gujarat, and he recorded us. He recorded. He recorded humpback. I won't show the entire video because time. Yeah, that's a humpback whale. And this, if some of you understand Tamil, is a person in Kanyakumari.
இந்த மீன் வந்து இது பெரிய மீன். இது வந்து எங்க வள்ளத்துக்கிட்ட வந்து கிடக்கும். கிடந்துட்டு கொஞ்ச நேரம் கழிச்சு அது அழுதுட்டு அப்படியே மறுபடியும் கொஞ்ச நேரம் கழிச்சு கூட கொஞ்ச நேரம் கிடந்துக்கிட்டு அப்படியே போயிடும். நாங்க அதை எந்த தொந்தரவுமே செய்ய மாட்டோம்.
So who's part of these networks? The fishers, the Coast Guard, Indian Navy, naturalists, divers, researchers. It can be anybody, as long as we reach out to them. And it's a two-way process, as Sir mentioned. Our work benefits, the species benefits, and of course, the people realize there's a wider world outside of their workspaces that they become part of. Also, this kind of information has led to some very important work when it comes to important marine mammal areas of the world. If you look at marinemammalhabitats.org, India is on the map. And we have already listed some important marine mammal areas. This is the World Atlas. And we have more areas coming up depending on how much data can be collected in the coming years. So this is something I also urge all of you to look, like the IUCN guidelines that Sir said about how you decide which species is red listed, which species is threatened or not. This also comes with a set of guidelines, and it is for regions or areas that marine mammals are known to use or occupy over time. So I would urge you to go into that website, marinemammalhabitat.org, and look at their criteria also for this. And again, even for these kind of mapping and world atlases that are peer reviewed, we have used citizen science data sets. Finally, this is something I would love to show you if we have time, but maybe I should go to the rest of the slides once more before I come back to this if we have time. But do go to marinemammals.in, and if over there, if you go to database, this is all information about all our animals. But if you go to database and go into sightings and strandings, you will see a whole list of reports of people having sighted live animals at water or dead ones at land. And these are all citizen science people. These are all people who are, coming back and reporting on WhatsApp groups. Sometimes we have to enter on the website because not everybody wants to go on websites. And this particular species of whale that you see is very rare again. It's called Omura's whale. And it was brought to our attention by a recreational fisher in the Andamans called Akshay. And that's the first report of Omura's whales again in Indian waters. Okay? So this is how important getting everybody involved is for our data, for our work. A quick presentation also that Mahi has made for us about the stranding networks. This is not just live, this is dead animals and live stranded animals. Local groups of volunteers show flexibility of first responders. So anybody should be able to inform the forest department, anybody should be able to keep the animals safe as they're licensed and collect data other than the samples for you. But every state has its own governance in place. India itself has national guidelines that got released only this year, I think, no, last year, telling you how to form a network that is connected then to the center. Each state can make its own network. We already have a very good stranding network in Mumbai. You can see all the locations of all the sightings and the strandings that have happened along the coast of Mumbai on this map because of the citizens that have provided the data, including fishermen. And over here, you can see the same in Goa, very well mapped again, all the sightings and strandings in since I think 2017. And the work is still going on. Over there, they've also trained the lifeguards to collect data for us. The lifeguard is the very important part of the citizen science project in Goa. I may not go into this just now, but this is a general model we follow when there is a stranded animal on shore. We usually have resource people or what we call important key persons in every area on every beach if possible, who then informs Marine Mammals of India website or the WhatsApp group and the forest department at the same time so that somebody reaches the location and starts collecting the data that is required to be collected. And so that is all from my side. I would like to show the website. So this is it, and I won't go into any of this, but yeah, if you want to look at how inclusive we are, we have everybody listed here. Um, Everybody from institutions to individuals that we know are interested and involved at some level, small scale, large scale, whatever, doesn't matter, but we keep all the names here. Even the river dolphin folks are on this, and this is the database. It's just that these things have to be curated. So you can enter enter the stuff that you've seen with the geotags and files, videos, whatever. If you've collected the audio, video, if you've collected the sample, all of that can be stored. This data is not private. Once you have submitted it, we curate it to just see if everything is okay. If it's not okay, we write to the person who has submitted it and just check with them if it's all okay, and then it goes into the actual database, which is your sightings and strandings database. So you'll get an email saying thank you and everything, and if anybody uses your data, you get cited also for that particular record. And as I just said, I just want to repeat, anybody can export this data and use it. Anybody can export Excel file and I think CSV file, and you can use it for your publications or for your presentations. There is nothing secretive about this database. Just use, maybe my internet is slow, but you can visualize your ego. Something is going on. So these are all different records. We have now 1,000 above records. Okay? Of different species. You can search for your particular state, or you can do a particular species, or you can go even advanced and look for a particular time when you're if you're looking for just 1 year or something like that. And anybody, it is not data. The only thing is there is one step before this where we curate. If the ID is wrong or something like that, then we curate it before we submit it to the public.